In times when Mr. Harvey was too ill to record his broadcasts, he turned that responsibility over to the show's creator and sole writer, his son, whom he called Young Paul. Here's Paul Harvey, Jr.
Now, the rest of the story. It was actually available in drugstores, over the counter, well over a century ago. You could just walk right in and buy it. And I'm thinking of one drugstore in particular, Garwood's Drugstore in Evanston, Illinois. Local church groups had long protested the product's ready availability, and the Evanston Town Council went along with the protest, banning its sale on the Sabbath. Well, that greatly upset Bill Garwood. He was the drugstore's owner and proprietor. Surely if what he was selling were immoral, then why didn't the town council outlaw it altogether? Otherwise, they should just leave him alone. But the Evanston authorities did not leave Bill Garwood alone. Spies were sent to check up on him. The city ordinance was clear. If they could just catch Bill in the act, if he were discovered just once to be pushing the stuff on the Sabbath, then they could lock him up and be done with it. Well, after a while, Bill understandably became paranoid. Even though he was complying with the ordinance by now, he found himself watching for anyone who might turn him in on some trumped-up pretext. And I ought to mention at this point that the terrible something Bill could not sell on the Sabbath was, no, really, the ice cream soda. That's right, the ordinary, everyday drugstore ice cream soda was the bubbly band in Evanston. You know, Garwood's even then was a landmark of sorts, a place where the whole community just naturally gathered to meet and shoot the breeze, mostly two at a time. In some towns it was the courthouse or the barber shop, but in Evanston it was Garwood's. Now, just outside on the corner was a fine, big shade tree. Bill had rigged up a signal bell at the curb within reach of passing carriage drivers. That way, Bill's patrons could ring for service without getting out of their carriages. They could even ask for an ice cream soda to sip in the shade of that big old tree. A drive-through drugstore. Curb service over a century ago. Much of Bill's income came from those sodas. In fact, he sold so many that they paid for his entire stock of drugs, and the sodas sold for only a nickel apiece. But then in 1875, a wave of reform hit Evanston. That's when the city ordinance came into effect, the law which banned the sale of ice cream sodas on the Sabbath. For one thing, argued the moralists, it was a frivolous concoction, not the sort of thing decent folks would consume on the day of worship. The main objection, however, was to the soda water itself, the carbonated water. That was the essentially evil element, they said. And so proprietor Bill Garwood, watching his drugstore business grind to a halt one day a week, conceived of a way to retaliate against the high-minded Evanston Town Council. Now, the ultimate solution to Bill's dilemma has been claimed by a number of communities throughout the United States, but our research indicates that Bill Garwood was the first man ever to take the soda water out of the soda and serve what was left on what Christians of that era called the Sabbath. He even named it after the day on which sodas could not be sold, and so forever after it would be known as the Ice Cream Sunday. So now, you know the rest of the story.
And now the rest of the story. You know, it's hard to beat a good ice cream sundae. In this episode, Paul Harvey Jr. said their research showed that Bill Garwood of Evanston, Illinois, was the creator of the ice cream sundae. It's strange to think that the temperance movement had any bearing on ice cream sodas, more specifically the carbonated water in ice cream sodas. The Woman's Christian Temperance Union was prominent in Evanston. Several Midwestern states and municipalities banned the distribution and consumption of alcohol and soda water on Sunday, and Evanston was one of the first towns to pass such a law. As young Paul explained, due to temperance laws, soda fountains sold ice cream sodas Monday through Saturday. On Sundays, they sold ice cream sundaes, which included the ingredients of an ice cream soda without the soda. Ice cream and flavored syrup. Demand for sundaes increased, and people requested the new concoction on days other than Sunday. Methodist leaders in Evanston protested in naming the dessert Sunday after the Sabbath. So the spelling of the name was changed to Sunday with an E. Methodist leaders were still unhappy. That's the story anyway. Evanston is just one of several towns claiming credit for the sundae. Two other major contenders in the Sunday War, as it became known, are Two Rivers, Wisconsin, and Ithaca, New York. In the 1970s, the mayors of these two cities sparred in good nature over the claim. The people of Two Rivers, Wisconsin claim that the ice cream sundae was created there in 1881. In 1973, locals even erected a state historical marker to stake their claim. In this version, it was soda fountain owner Edward Berner who created the first ice cream sundae. Edward purportedly created the concoction in 1881 at the request of a customer, but only sold it on Sundays. Then a 10-year-old girl insisted on an ice cream sundae and said that they could pretend it was Sunday. And the soda fountain owner kept pretending it was Sunday and sold the treat every day of the week. This is when it lost its association with Sunday, the day of the week. According to the historical marker, it derived the name Sunday with an E when a glassware salesman ordered from his own company long canoe-shaped dishes for serving, as he called them, Sunday dishes. The earliest reference to the sundae being created in Two Rivers was in 1929 when the Two Rivers Reporter newspaper interviewed Edward Berner. Now, keep in mind, this was some 4 decades after he claimed to have created the ice cream sundae. One night, Edward explained, a customer named Hallower dropped in and ordered a dish of ice cream. As I was serving it, he spied a bottle of chocolate syrup on the back bar, which I used for making sodas. "Why don't you put some of that chocolate on the ice cream?" he asked. "You don't want to ruin the flavor of the ice cream," I protested. But Hallower answered, "I'll try anything once," and I poured on the chocolate. Hallower liked it, and the ice cream sundae was born. Edward Berner closed his ice cream parlor in 1927. Today, the Washington House Hotel Museum in Two Rivers includes a replica of Ed Berner's ice cream parlor. That's it behind me. There's just one problem with Edward Berner's claim. According to Ancestry.com, Edward was born in 1863. Photos of his headstone at his gravesite show his date of birth being 1860. This means Edward would have been either 18 years old or 21 years old at the time the ice cream sundae was created. Is it likely that he owned an ice cream parlor at that young age? Was he just an employee at the time? What do you think? Now, people in Ithaca, New York claim the ice cream sundae was created in their city in 1892. They claim that on Sunday afternoon, April 3rd, 1892, after services at the Unitarian Church, Reverend John Scott paid his usual visit to the Platt and Colt Pharmacy in downtown Ithaca. Shop owner Chester Platt was the church's treasurer, and he often met with Scott after services. Seeking refreshments for himself and the Reverend, Platt asked his fountain clerk, DeForest Christians, for 2 bowls of ice cream. But instead of serving the Reverend plain old vanilla, Platt took the bowls and topped each with cherry syrup and a candied cherry. The two men were delighted by the creation, and Scott suggested that it be named for the day it was created. Platt concurred, and the first cherry sundae, spelled with a Y, was born. Does this sound likely? Platt and Cole tried to seek a trademark protection for his ice cream sundae, spelled with a Y. Unfortunately for them, federal trademark protection didn't extend to domestic commerce at the time. A letter from the patent attorney stated, "There is no federal protection that can be obtained so as to give you the exclusive right to use the word sundae in connection with your ice cream and syrup novelties." In response to the claims by Ithaca, New York, Evanston argued, while Ithaca may have had the sundae as early as 1897, as the Chamber of Commerce there claims, it obviously got there by two means. Either some Northwestern student brought it home with him, or a Cornell student from Evanston took it there. I was unconvinced. I decided to take a look at old newspapers and see what I could find. I learned that in addition to not wanting vendors to sell carbonated sodas on Sunday, some people didn't want vendors selling ice cream itself on Sunday. In June 1873, a citizen of Brooklyn, New York, wrote a letter to the editor of the Union in which he or she, we don't know which, complained that peddlers drove their wagons through the streets on the Sabbath afternoons and evenings, ringing bells and screaming at the top of their lungs, "Ice cream! Ice cream!" The author ended the letter with, "We want a quiet Sabbath for all." In July of the following year, 1874, two Norfolk, Virginia men were charged with selling ice cream on Sunday. In Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, a vendor was required to have a hotel license to sell ice cream on Sunday. In July 1875, in Sunbury, Pennsylvania, Tom McGaw filed suit against a man known as Uncle Bill Reese, owner of a restaurant called the Tremont House. You see, Tom leased the cellar beneath the restaurant. In the suit, Tom claimed that Uncle Bill scrubbed his floors too frequently and water occasionally leaked into his apartment. Now, in addition to the complaint that Uncle Bill scrubbed his floors too frequently, Tom brought suit against Uncle Bill for selling ice cream on Sunday. In many places around the country, if you wanted to eat ice cream on Sunday, you had to order it during the week. That just seems nuts today. The earliest mention of an ice cream sundae, spelled Sundae, in any newspaper was published in the Alexandria Argus in Alexandria, Nebraska on August 24th, 1900. It was short and to the point. Try an ice cream sundae at Landkamers. On April 19th, 1901, an advertisement in the Gibson City Courier, Gibson, Illinois, said, "Get an ice cream sundae at Kimple's." Gibson City is about 135 miles south of Evanston. In June 1901, the Lola, Kansas Register said the Sweet Brothers were selling ice cream sundaes. In August the same year, Raymore Drugstore in Raymore, Missouri advertised ice cream sundaes and noted that while they served ice cream sundaes, they did not serve drinks on Sunday. In April 1902, Krell's in Davenport, Iowa advertised that they served the finest ice cream sodas, sundaes, and crushed fruit sodas in the city. In May 1902, John H. Miller Drugstore in Lancaster, Pennsylvania sold ice cream sodas and ice cream sundaes for a nickel. In the same month, Riley Drugstore in Plattsburgh, Missouri said, "Try an ice cream sundae." Despite the best efforts of many historians, no one can agree on just who created the very first ice cream sundae or where it was created. But regardless of the who or where, I would just like to say a big thank you to whomever it was. Do you have a favorite kind of ice cream sundae? I'm Brad Dison. Thanks for watching. And now you know, well, sort of know, the rest of the story.